We got shirts on sale. Express your love for the evolutions and the new channel rebrand with an evolution t-shirt and hoodie. On sale now. Also, if you like anime, go check out our anime channel MysticSage for awesome anime content. And be sure to follow me on social media so you can stay caught up with the channels and me. Links will be in the description below. The Pokemon Rivals. These special characters have been placed as an obstacle for you as the player since the very beginning of the Pokemon series. Each rival has their own unique Pokemon, abilities, personality, and so many other aspects that make these characters your rivals or your archenemy depending on how you view them personally. No matter how you view these NPCs though, they get in your way and you have to battle them. Some rivals are either god tier, they completely suck, or they're somewhere in the middle. My entire Pokemon life, I have always wondered how strong these rivals are in comparison to one another. So today, I wanted to put these trainers together and rank them weakest to strongest. When ranking the rivals, I'll be taking into consideration team viability, mechanics they have, held items, movesets, and a plethora of different elements. I will say though, just because a rival has access to Mega Evolution or Gigantamax doesn't mean they will be at the top. In fact, you guys will be learning that very soon. With that being said though, let's just hop right in. Let's just take out the trash right from the get-go. The lesser important rivals of Pokemon X and Y. I have grouped up Shauna, Tierno, and Trevor. As a player, you only ever battle them together. Tierno and Trevor had a double battle together against you and Serena, or Calum depending on which playable character you choose. Shauna had one fight with the starters at the very beginning of the game. As for their final teams on the bridge in Route 19, Tierno bases it on his dance moves, and has a Swords Dancing Talonflame with acrobatics and quick attack, a Roserade with only Petal Dance, and his Crawdon with Swords Dance, Crabhammer, and Night Slash. That is a good moveset, but his Talonflame has the ability Flame Body, and Crawdon has Shell Armor. Talonflame would be a lot more effective if it had Gale Wings, and Crawdon would be more effective if it had Adaptability. Shauna's team consists of Delcatty, and the starter weak to the one the player chose, neither of them having good moves. Lastly, there's Trevor, which of the three has the best team with Raichu, Aerodactyl, and Florges, all actually having 4 moves and showing some sort of synergy. But that alone is not enough to save the more forgotten characters of Pokemon X and Y. For as good of friends you supposedly are in Generation 6, they really don't do a whole lot to test you and inspire you to be better. Luckily, there is one rival we can look to later on in this list. With that trash finally taken out, we need to look back. Not too far though. In Generation 5, we had 3 main rivals, those being N, Cheran, and the one we talk about for this slot, Bianca. Her team consists of an Intimidate Stoutland with Return, Ice Fang, Surf, and Wild Charge. Then we have the oh-so-terrible Elemental Monkey that is supposed to beat your starter with Return, Rock Slide, Brick Break, and Stab special attack for each monkey. Bianca's most impressive Pokemon would probably either be Mienshao or Chandelure, and those are pretty good Pokemon. But when it's all said and done, Bianca has too big of a focus on friendship, so all her Pokemon have the move Return, which doesn't utilize her team at all with Pokemon like Chandelure and Musharna. That and potentially even superior. For a Gen 5 team, it's okay. But that is Bianca's best team in the postgame as a rematch, which is a bit late for her, but it should be utilized better. Bianca isn't just quite capable to stomach the competition. So in the intro, I mentioned that just because a trainer has access to Mega Evolution doesn't mean they would be at the top. In the case of this individual, that's pretty spot on. Coming up next is Trace, the rival with a Mega Evolution and a team with no ability Pokemon. Oh, and let's not forget the 3 moves in all of his Pokemon. You guys taught me a lot from the Champion video, and yeah, Trace sucks. Red and Blue must have not cared to put this guy in charge. How did Lance lose to this guy? Even if he did have Mega Pidgeot with no guard, where's Hurricane? Without Hurricane, his team doesn't have a designated carrier. There are other rivals on this list that have greater team synergy, have items attached, and they can Mega Evolve with abilities. I understand ranking Trace with Let's Go mechanics in mind can seem a little bit unfair. Unfortunately though, that's just the way they made Trace and Let's Go in general. This could be a list where I take into consideration if certain characters had certain abilities, but if I did that, then it wouldn't be accurate and it wouldn't be factual. So for the sake of that complicated situation, let's keep Trace here. Let's be real too. I don't think you guys are going to be all that upset for me placing Trace here. Ranking the champions helped me distinguish that. Coming up next to the plate is Cheran. Cheran is one of those rivals that I kind of figured was going to be ranked at this spot on the list. Cheran is still better than Trace though, so that's definitely some positive light. What makes Cheran better are 2 reasons. 1, he has abilities, and 2, he has items. Taking a look at his final team for Pokemon Black and White, he doesn't just have citrus berries and stuff. He has a Dragon Gem on his Haxorus, Scope Lens on his Unpheasant with Super Luck, and a Gigalith with Leftovers. See, these are actual competitive items, which I think makes Cheran a cut above the previous people I have mentioned. Not to mention in Generation 5, gems were very powerful items. The problem is, though, he's going off his rival team in Pokemon Black and White. This means that he is only locked into Generation 5 Pokemon specifically. With that being said, that really limits what he has access to. Other than that, though, Cheran has a very respectable team, and he really shows that the rest of the rivals on this list are very capable. Back in Unova again, we have the Black and White 2 rival, Hugh. Now, Hugh and Cheran are similar in the fact that they share 3 of the same Pokemon, being Unpheasant, an Elemental Monkey, and there's also the starter that's stronger against yours. What makes him stronger is that he has a Bouffalant, an Electros, and a Flygon. Bouffalant, as we all know, hits harder than it needs to. Electros doesn't have any weaknesses with Levitate. I guess Mold Breaker does count, but that's just so situational. And he also has a Flygon with a Dragon Gem. Those 3 Pokemon solidify that Hugh's team is stronger, and not to mention it's also decently well made. Hugh gave me semi-trouble, so I feel his placement here is actually pretty well placed. Now, you can argue that Haxorus of Dragon Gem is stronger, but Bouffalant and Electros are far better than Liepard and Gigalith. That's why I think Hugh stacks just a little more than Cheran does. Looking over to Galar, we have not just one, but 2 rivals together, and I've put these 2 together because they share a few traits in common. They both have access to a Fairy-type Gigantamax Pokemon, they both use a Mono-type team, and they're both pretty similar in the story. Both Bede and Marnie stand proud together closer to the middle of the list. With their gimmick of Bede having only Fairy-types, most of them being Psychic/Fairy, and Mawile being Steel/Fairy, to attempt some sort of coverage for the Poison and Steel weaknesses, and then there's Marnie, with her Mono-type Dark team, with a sneaky Toxicroak that deal with those pesky Fairy-types. You could argue that Marnie then doesn't have a Mono-type team, but then again, Karen is supposedly a Dark-type trainer who uses Vileplume and Gengar in Gen 2. Their aces are also Gigantamax Hatterene with G-Max Smite, which has a chance to confuse the opponent, and Marnie having Gigantamax Grimmsnarl with G-Max Snooze with the Yawn effect. Looking at the rest of their teams, we have for Marnie a Liepard with Prankster Nasty Plot, and Snarl is a sneaky combo. The Poison-type Toxicroak that catch the Fairy Zap Guard, a Scrafty with Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, Drain Punch, and Crunch, her trusty Morpeko, and of course the G-Max Grimmsnarl. Over on Bede's side, he has the Mawile, Gardevoir, Rapidash, and the G-Max Hatterene. So as you can clearly see, they are awfully similar, but both were pretty cool rivals from Generation 8. I am a Johto fan through and through, and Silver will always be the best rival in my eyes. From a weakest to strongest scenario though, he definitely places a little differently. Thankfully though, he doesn't place too high or too low. Silver's team is just your general rival team that you would see on any rival. He actually took the rival torch from Blue and did an all-around great job. He also has some pretty powerful threats in his team like Gengar and Alakazam. Silver takes Blue's team and kind of averages it out, but still has the primary power threats like those 2 Pokemon. He also has a Sneasel, Crobat, and Magneton. Those mons are decent. Feraligatr and Typhlosion are also alright Pokemon for a Johto team. So Silver is a decent rival in my book. From the rival of Generation 2, we now move on and double that number. I introduce to you Barry from Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. Now we're reaching the top part of the list, and Barry definitely deserves the spot he has. First of all, he has an incredible team just on paper. He has some great Pokemon, one being Staraptor, who is arguably one of the top 3 early bird Pokemon, Roserade, a fantastic and versatile grass and poison type, and he also has access to Infernape, which is by far the best fire and fighting type starter. Now I know some of you are going to argue that Blaziken is better thanks to having the Mega Evolution, but honestly, I think Infernape's versatility takes the title for best fire fighting type. That's my personal view though. On top of the Pokemon I mentioned though, Barry also has access to a Channel Classic and Snorlax, the all-powerful Heracross, and Floatzel. One thing Barry is also very good at is the incredible versatility in his moveset. Staraptor has Close Combat and U-Turn, Floatzel has moves like Crunch, Ice Fang, and Brick Break, Snorlax carries Earthquake, Crunch, and Rest for recovery, and the Roserade has Giga Drain, Shadow Ball, and Poison Jab. Shadow Ball is incredibly useful for catching Psychic types off guard. His Infernape is also a very powerful threat, having access to Focus Blast and Flamethrower for stab, and Shadow Claw and Aerial Ice for coverage. Barry also technically has access to Empoleon or Torterra, depending on your starter choice. And if he has either of them, he replaces Infernape with the only fire type accessible in Generation 4 before the post-game, that being Rapidash. But personally, I think his best team is the Infernape team. Getting into the second half of the list, we have Brendan/May. Now some of you are probably going to argue and say these 2 only have 5 Pokemon versus a whole team, and I agree with you. Having a 5 Pokemon team definitely should put them towards the Cheran/Hugh point of the list. What makes May/Brendan different though, is that in their ORAS teams, they have access to Mega Evolutions. Unlike in Let's Go, Megas have abilities this time. With Megas having abilities, that opens the door to some possibilities. Some of those possibilities could be, I don't know, them having access to a Mega Blaziken, Mega Swampert, or Sceptile. The Hoenn starters and their Megas help stack Brendan and May this high. The rest of the Pokemon on their team aren't bad either, with Pokemon like Swellow, Raichu, or Breloom. Whatever starter team they have, it's decently well-rounded. But they still have a 5 Pokemon team, so they are still not quite towards the top. Some of you guys may be surprised that Cheran and Killam are up this high. When I mean X and Y trash, they are kind of a part of that trend, because of their bland personalities and whatnot. What's funny though is that their teams are actually pretty good. Cheran and Killam also have a team of 6, so that's what initially places them above Brendan and May. They also have access to Mega Evolution, having Mega Absol. Mega Absol, you can argue, isn't as great as a Hoenn Megas, but it's what's on Cheran and Killam's team that makes them place just slightly above May or Brendan. See, this set of rivals has access to Greninja and Clefable. Greninja is obviously dependent on what starter you choose, but still, they have access to it in some way. Clefable is just an incredible versatile fairy-type wall. So I think Clefable and Greninja added to the mix is what helps Cheran and Killam trail just a little bit further ahead of Brendan and May. Okay, this next one is going to be an incredibly hot take. Up next is Hop. Now Hop is a really interesting case because you almost forget he captures this Pokemon in the postgame. Hop gets access to the opposite legendary under box art, and both of these canine are super powerful. On top of that, Hop also has a Snorlax, a Corviknight, and one of the incredible Galar starters. To really put the icing on the cake though, Corviknight can Gigantamax. So having a box legendary, Corviknight, a fat Snorlax, and one of the Galar starters is pretty impressive. I think this is enough to justify why I put Hop here. Hop is also going to be a little bit shorter than entry because I literally have an entire video about him that I did a few weeks ago. He is great though, so I don't mind talking about him again briefly. I am well aware I've given this man some slack in the past, and I know that some of you will argue with the position of this specific character due to a particular moveset choice on one of his Pokemon, but I still think that this character is within the top 5 of strongest rivals. We're looking at none other than a lowest poster boy for an annoying rival, Hau. But where his personality is less than desirable, he makes up for it with this team and strength. First off, to start off, Hau is one of the very few trainers in the franchise with access to his Z-move, considering they were only around for this generation. And I don't know about you, but a Bloom Doom from a Decidueye, Inferno Overdrive from an Incineroar, or a Hydro Vortex from Primarina is a big bonus that only Hau really has access to. But beyond that, before we even look at the rest of his team, take a moment to give some credit to Hau. In the postgame of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, Hau is seen catching a Blacephalon in Ultra Sun or Stakataka in Ultra Moon. He did, however, give it to the Ultra Recon squad, but he caught one of the biggest dangers to Alola on his own. That's quite impressive. Furthermore, Hau sports a team of Low and Raichu, an evolution to beat your starter, probably his most controversial Pokemon due to the charm and baby doll eyes in the moveset, but that aside, he also has a Tauros, Noivern, Crabominable, and the starter you beat. But as mentioned before the starter, it also has a Z-move. Honestly, that is an impressive squad, and Hau actually gave me some trouble. The Generation 6 and beyond experience share just makes things seem easier with such evenly distributed EXP for leveling. From one Generation 7 rival to another, the Team Skull Enforcer and owner of the Artificial Arceus, if you will, hitting us up with the Arceus system is Gladion and his partner Savali. Well, not the Savali on its own, of course. I also need to preference that just like with Hau, we're looking at Gladion from Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. In those games, Gladion has a team consisting of everyone's favorite Fat Bat with acrobatics and no item. And if you remember the Crobat video, that was a massive selling point for how good it was. There is also a Darkinium Z Zoroark with Night Days, but more importantly for Gladion, he has a Porygon Z with Bolt Beam and Tri-Attack, a special Lucario with Extreme Speed, and the Kanto starter of the same typing as your Alolan starter. That's super impressive if you ask me, on top of Savali holding the memory that benefits the matchup against your starter. The thing that really solidifies Gladion for me is just the sheer power of Z Zoroark, Porygon Z with Download, the Kanto starter, and Savali. That's just such a powerful team. Some of you might argue that this next entry isn't an actual rival, considering that Bulbapedia doesn't consider him a rival. But I think most fans agree that he feels more like a rival than both Cheran and Bianca managed to feel like in Pokemon Black and White. Sliding into the top 3, we have N from Pokemon Black and White. Now I don't know about you, but beating the entire Elite Four, while not super impressive, there are other champion matches against rivals in the franchise, Blue and Hau most notably. But what N stands out for is that he caught the legendary Pokemon of the region, being either Reshiram or Zekrom, depending on which version you played. That certainly proves his worth in terms of what he's capable of. On top of that, N's team consists of Archeops, Zoroark, everyone's favorite ice cream cone Vanillux, Caracosta, and Klinklang. From an in-game perspective, N proves himself as a top-tier strong rival, and also being the king of Team Plasma. But just from a gameplay perspective, he is quite strong. As I stated before, top 3 for sure. I bet none of you saw this one coming. After traveling to every region, we returned to the OG, the one and only Blue. Now what can I say about Blue that hasn't already been said in the past? He has a Gen 1 Alakazam, which is arguably the best Pokemon in the generation except for probably Mewtwo. In Fire Red and Leaf Green, he keeps the same team, but now with abilities. The rest of this team, as you all know by now, is Pidgeot, Rhydon, Arcanine, or Charizard, Exeggutor, or Venusaur, Gyarados, or Blastoise. But what some of you might not be aware of is that in Blue's rematch team, he has a Heracross and a Tyranitar. Blue has always been at the top of his game with crazy powerful Pokemon. Not to mention a Machamp, which he has in most iterations after the Kanto-based games. Blue proves time and time again that he is one of the best that Pokemon has to offer, but I found one rival that proves himself more powerful in the role. I know for certain that none of you expected who would hold the crown at the top. Blue being number 2? That's madness. Who could possibly have been above him? Well, let me tell you about a young boy living a peaceful life in Verdant Turf Town and being quite ignored in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. When researching for this video, I was shocked by how strong Wally truly is. Let me run it down for you all. Wally has the benefit of his Battle Mason team, which really just shows his prowess. He has a Bright Powder Roserade, a Gen 6 Gale Wings Talonflame holding a Life Orb, and a Salt Vest Huge Power Azumarill, an Air Balloon Sturdy Magnezone, a Rough Skin Rocky Helmet Garchomp, and a Mega Gallade. That is a powerful team. And sure, Hop has one of the legendary wolves, and N has either Reshiram or Zekrom, but Wally has a fully viable competitive team with everything he needs, defense and offense. Wally has one of the best teams I've ever seen, and it brings a challenge to anyone facing it for the generation. Well, that pretty much wraps up these rival rankings. I think I did a pretty decent job at placing these guys. The placements also show that just because you can Mega Evolve or Gigantamax doesn't mean you're the best, unless your name is Wally and you have a full competitive team. That dude's an exception to the rule. Other than that, I think I ranked them decently. What are your thoughts though? Let me know down below and tell me which rival you think is the weakest and strongest. If you enjoyed the video, why not leave a like and subscribe to my channel with notifications on, that way you never miss an upload. If you want to support me further, consider following my Twitch where I stream all sorts of games from Pokemon to Fire Emblem to Zelda and much more. I also have an anime channel called MysticSage where I do anime reviews, rankings, and countdowns. So if you're interested in that kind of content, go ahead and check that out as well. If you want to support me even further and gain cool perks, check out my Patreon. These lovely people have all given me their support over there and I couldn't be more grateful to them. I think I'm gonna wrap this up though. I'm Mystic Umbreon and I will see you in the future for more awesome Pokemon content.